Thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you so much. It was so cool to get that text or email that said you wanted to jump on. It's great to see you. And man, I got a question for you right out of the gate though.
Okay.
Next series, um, I would guess you don't want to get them ahead of time.
I don't know.
You are so good at looking at the trailers, the photos, piecing every little bit of information together, and then making predictions. And we love when you do that. I send it to everybody, to Pratt and all the showrunner and Jared Shaw and everybody. And we're like, look at this. Like, he got this. We're like, he got this pretty close or whatever. Like, we never thought in a million years anyone would connect these dots. And you do that so well. And then I realized that by sending you Dark Wolf early, one, it has your email across it, so that's not great. It's distracting. And then two, it kind of undercuts that thing that you are so awesome at doing because you can't do those things because you have it all ahead of time. So I was curious what you thought about that.
Yeah, I guess I see both sides because since they're doing weekly releases this time, it's not like an 8-hour movie that you can binge until the end.
Mm-hmm.
And um yeah, I guess the email across it does kind of, for some people it might keep them from being engaged, but Dark Wolf was made so well. I had to stay up to like 2 or 3 to watch it, just full on binge. And there's something about staying up to watch that late that I think, just being so engaged in this story, it was so much better.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I know. I wish they'd binge it. I wish they dropped it all at once. But what I think happened, I'm not 100% sure of this, is they're going more towards the weekly release type thing to keep people from like joining for like a 30-day window free trial, watching what they want to watch, and then getting off again or something along those lines, then not signing up for the service. I think, I'm not
Yeah.
positive because I wish they would just drop it all at once. And I'm not sure what they'll do with True Believer. Hopefully, they drop that all at once and keep doing that, just kind of like with the flagship. And maybe if they have to do weekly ones, maybe with any other spin-off type deal, maybe they do the once a week type thing. But I like it when they drop it all at once. If people get mad at you, have you seen the comments?
Yeah.
If people get mad at me, like why? Like I'm the one who decided to like do it week by week. Like, come on, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. What can you do? That's the world we live in. But obviously, I have nothing to do with that. But I wish that they would drop it all at once because it is such a cool thing to watch in its entirety.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Did you have a
Uh
favorite episode?
oh, I'd have to go. It's like I have 3 and I can't, that's like half the season. But episode 1, because it was just so cool to see all of his teammates back, and the window was closed for them because of what happened in the first episode of the first series, and just seeing them work as a team in that team environment again. And this time around it seems like they were so much more comfortable in their with their characters, and the chemistry on scene was amazing. And then the finale was awesome.
Really, you like that one? That was the one I wrote uh,
Oh,
with the showrunner. But interesting. I'm trying to think of mine because now I'm watching them on a bigger screen. I've only watched them on my computer. This one that we're on right now, so a smaller screen doing all the edits, and so I've never seen it all put together before until I'm actually watching them now. Because some things at the last second, they're like, oh, we're going to add this special effect, and that'll happen, right before, later type of a thing. But you get the idea. So I haven't seen it in its entirety. I haven't seen it with the intro, the outro, all that stuff. This week on, this season on Dark Wolf, like that thing, hype, all that. So I haven't seen it in its entirety on a big screen, and I'm doing that with everybody else. So we just watched episode 5 last night, my wife and I really like 5. That's the one that has the hostile, shootout
oh
and everything.
yeah.
So I really like that, and has the tall fight in it. So I think that might be my favorite. I think 5 and 6 maybe for me. I'm not sure, but I guess I'll be able to tell you for sure once I finish watching them all on the big screen.
Yeah. I'll have to ask you some questions at the end that I can release after the finale is out.
Okay, yeah, please do,
Yeah.
please do. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you liked it, and thank you for all the support. It's so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that is coming out soon is Cry Havoc, and I'll say that's the only book that I've ever pulled an all-nighter reading.
Oh man, awesome!
Oh, awesome.
There it is. There it is, right there. Yeah,
It looks great.
you have one of these coming signed to you with the one of those pub boxes. So that's heading your way.
Man, I'm fired up. I'm gonna ask you, when did you know that it was the right time to write this story?
I toyed around with it after Only the Dead, and I thought, is now the right time? Because I knew I was very intentional about wanting to create interesting characters who, like Brave Hastings, who are essentially a supporting character, but give him a family lineage in the 60s and then 40s also that I could go back and write books about. Same thing, James Reese, his father, Vietnam, and then and grandfather, World War II. So I wanted to plant those seeds early. So I do that in the early novels and to give me options. And I think I got a lot of that from Stephen Hunter and Bob Lee Swagger series. We have multiple generation of Swagger family books. Bob the Nailer, Bob Lee Swagger, of course, from Point of Impact, Shooter, the movie with Mark Wahlberg, and then the TV show as well on USA. But so I did that very intentionally. And I thought about it, Only the Dead, but I was like, I think there's one more that with James Reese that really takes this arc and essentially doesn't put a bow on it because I'm going to go back to James Reese, but is kind of like a series that fits as a portion of his life that has some interconnections. And so when I finished Red Sky Mourning, I was like, okay, now is the time because let's give James Reese a little bit of a break from saving the world and think about who the next. And I knew it would be the dad. I knew it would be Tom Reese, Vietnam. That made the most sense to me, and so started it up. And then as soon as I got into it, I realized, oh wow, this is all going to be a lot more work than I anticipated. And I thought because of what I'd written about him and in memories and flashbacks, I already knew the character. And I thought I'd done enough research, or not enough. I thought I did so much research into Vietnam throughout my life that I'd be able to just kind of check things as I went along. But really, it became the most heavily researched novel to date. You can actually see most of the books up on that, what used to be a bar. And
Wow.
those ones on that first shelf are the Vietnam books because they were all on the floor for so long, and then I ran out of space in the library. And those aren't all the Vietnam books, but there are a lot of them. And because I had to write every character through the lens of 1968, meaning if Tom Reese is like 25 or whatever he is, he only has 25 years of experience to apply to this problem set, and it only goes up to 1968. There's not 50 plus years of hindsight that he can apply to what he's doing. Same thing, there's a French doctor that ends up in Saigon, and he has he's in Paris during World War II, but his life experience only goes up to 1968, but it includes World War II. And then all these different people of all these different ages from all these different countries, I have to go back and put myself in their shoes. And that was much more difficult doing it as a period piece, essentially, rather than as a contemporary thriller when I can say, oh, if somebody's 85 today and they're a former KGB guy, kind of in my head, I know what that looks like. But going back to 1968, I'm like, oh, what does somebody who is 75, 65, 55 in 1968, what would their life experience have been? Okay, now I need to research all of these things. Oh, okay. And that informs their character. And then I put them in dialogue with other characters and where I really get to know their personalities. But it was a lot more work than I thought. So it was a very long way of saying that I knew that from the beginning that eventually I would write about Tom Reese. And after Red Sky Mourning, puts kind of a nice arc on the first 7 books. And that arc for James Reese, I knew it was time to go to Tom Reese in Vietnam.
Wow. Yeah, it was so immersive. It was amazing.
Thank you.
How did you approach the research for Cry Havoc, and how did it differ from your nonfiction research?
Well, the nonfiction research, you can't get wrong. You have to get right because it's real, it's nonfiction. Um, but I also have help with that one. I have James Scott, Pulitzer Prize finalist, who actually knows how to research, how to legally annotate everything from quotes to photographs, all those things you need to do in a nonfiction book that don't come into play when you're writing fiction. But in this, essentially what became historical fiction, wow, I wasn't looking at one singular event, like with targeted Beirut. I'm looking at one singular event. I guess more than that with the embassy bombing in April, and then the headquarters building and barracks in October of '83, and then what happens between those two. So you have three kind of distinct parts, but essentially it's one phase of American history that's condensed into less than a year. Now, in this and Cry Havoc, I'm looking at a year, but I'm going back and I'm looking at USS Pueblo, which happens in January of '68. And then I have Tet, which happens at the end of January '68. And then I have to work my way all the way through the end of the year with these things happening both abroad and at home in the United States, with Martin Luther King assassination, Bobby Kennedy assassination, Johnson announcing he's not going to run for another election, riots and protests. How's that affecting the people downrange? What's technology like in 1968? Because I'm looking at the most technologically advanced encryption devices for back then. What do those look like for multiple countries? And then Commando Bond, Caleb Daniels, came on board to help me research. And so we got to do that together. So I'd say, Caleb, I need to know everything about, let's say, this encryption device. Here, I looked it up. It's called this. Can you write a one pager for me on how that works? And so he read a one-page history up on it for me that I could then look at and apply. So so I need to know, hey, what was the GRU doing in Prague in '68? Like those sorts of things. Read me a one pager on that. Or hey, what would somebody have worn in 1968 if they were this age and they were a fan of espionage thrillers? What would somebody have worn? Would he have worn a tweed coat? Is it was it the Trilby hats back then? Even though they were out of style, could I have him wear that? And so, what kind of watch would maybe he have purchased? Like that sort of stuff. And so I had a lot of help from Caleb Daniels, Commando Bond on Instagram, who was just fantastic. So I had his help doing those sorts of things. But wow, he wanted to get this one right for the Vietnam veterans who are alive today, the MACV Saw guys who have been on my podcast, whose books I've read, who sacrificed so much in Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, North Vietnam. You really want to get that stuff right, the feeling of the era, and do right by them. So that was an added pressure, I think, this time around that I haven't had with the other books, where if I get something wrong, I can just say, hey, it's fiction. This time, even though it's fiction, it really was closer to being historical fiction, and I really wanted to get it right for those guys who lived through that era. So I did feel an added pressure this time around to do that.
Wow, yeah. Every time I see a Vietnam veteran with their hat, I try to go up and thank them for their service, because I know when they returned, they weren't welcomed, most of them. But it's just amazing what they went through and the recognition that they deserved but didn't get.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I put the presidential unit citation at the very end of the book that they ended up getting all those years later. So I put that in there and tried to just honor them the best I could.
Yeah, that's amazing. Something that I was kind of surprised to see was some surfing, and I've been getting into a little surfing, but I was wondering where that came from and if you ever surfed.
I am the worst surfer. I've tried it multiple times. So bad. We went down to Nicaragua this last year with the family and got my youngest out there on a board. He's been surfing before though, but to see him just pop up, I'm like, come on. I don't think I was built for surfing, snowboarding, skateboarding. Whatever that balance is, where your body's turned sideways, is like just different than for me anyway than other types of athletic activity. So I am not a good surfer, but I wanted to just capture another part of that era. And, watching China Beach growing up on TV, wanted to incorporate a little bit of that into the novel to kind of differentiate it from where they are at Fubai, and then where he goes in Saigon, and just kind of capture some of what it was like around Da Nang. And that was such an important part of it, China Beach. And so I wanted to incorporate it. And then one of my buddies, Mike Stoner, who I talk about in the acknowledgments, I work his dad into it as somebody who teaches Tom Rees to shape surfboards on the West Coast before he goes over to Vietnam. And so that's all true. I wanted to put a little bit of that history in there. I worked in some names of guys who did surf in Vietnam and the surfboards of the era. And I also wanted to give Tom Rees something to go back to on the water when he needed to recuperate and recover for some injuries. So I wanted to give him something that was not sitting in a hospital room and not sitting in a bar and not just something that was different. So I want to put him on the water And so that's where that came from.
It's really cool. He's returning to his roots.
That's it. That's it. Makes sense for the SEAL teams. So yeah, I wanted to do that.
Was there ever a moment or a conversation that happened in real life that was so life changing that you had to put it in a book right after it happened to you?
Ooh, that is a good question. I think that the answer is yes, but all the books are kind of conflating, and I don't know which one. I mean, there's some other ones like the conversations that I had with some of the McAfee Saw guys that I knew I was going to incorporate, and some of them I got from reading their books, and then I got to ask them about on the podcast, or got to email them about for some specifics, just to really add a flavor or a detail that would stand out to that person or other people that had similar experiences in Vietnam. So Dick Thompson jumping out of his helicopter, that makes it in. I morph it, of course, the gear that these guys carry. I kind of do a little morph for Tom Reese between what John Stryker Meyer carried and what Dick Thompson carried for his character in the novel. So those for sure, and a lot of them did come from the books that I read, and then got to follow up on the podcast, and then got to check through emails and texts with these guys. So yeah, I did work a lot of that in.
So the book tour is coming up for Cry Havoc.
Yeah, book tour coming up, and go right from here. Go back to Morocco, keep filming True Believer, and then right into book tour, and then right into some research for the next Targeted. So it's a bit busy next month and a half, close to 2 months.
Wow. What was it like to be back on set for Dark Wolf? What
Oh,
was that first day like?
it was so great because it's so long. I mean, it seemed because we had we're about a year behind because of the writer's strike that happened. So that was, even though it was about 7 months, I think. Then there was an actor strike in there too. But even though it wasn't a full year, it put us behind by a year. No doubt about that, just because of all the compounding things that come along with a delay. So Dark Wolf should have come out last summer, and right now True Believer should be coming out, but instead it got pushed. So being back on set was amazing. It was like a reunion. And with the actors, a lot of the crew also were the same, especially when we're filming a little bit in California before we zipped off to Budapest. And it was just it's turned into like a family. So it's really fun to see everybody on set. I'm looking forward to getting back out to Morocco. I was just out there a few weeks ago with our youngest son, and he's getting to hang out on the set with Chris Pratt in the Atlas Mountains, and it was just it's been amazing. And we got to do the premiere in New York along the way for Dark Wolf, and that was incredible to have everybody together. I got some World War II veterans in there that came out as well, and so it's just been an incredible experience all the way around. And Dark Wolf came out and exceeded my expectations. And then I think True Believer is going to take it to another level if what I've seen thus far is any indication. So I'm super excited for that to come out. And I would guess next summer, but I don't have any. That's just a guess. I don't know exactly. So we'll see.
All the responses I've been getting for Dark Wolf have been great. So I think people were really surprised how it exceeded expectations, which is crazy because the first season was just so good. But I'm really looking forward to True Believer. I think one thing that I keep on hearing was how Rafe Hastings was done so well. And a lot of fans were kind of, like even me a little bit, honestly, were just a little worried that it wouldn't turn out the way we expected. But there were some moments like in episode 2 when they go out of those alleys that just seems like a moment that's straight off a page, and it just captures who his character is and what sets him apart in just one scene. That
Very cool. Yeah, Tom Hopper's an awesome dude. He crushed it, and he was nervous about it too because when he got the role, he was like starting to go through comments and read all the books, and we were talking about it, and he was like, "Man, people have some high expectations for Rafe. He's really a fan favorite character. I hope I can pull this off." And he exceeded expectations across the board, and he crushed it. He's just an awesome guy. Surprising Landry, probably people read about him in True Believer, and are like, I'm gonna hate this guy, and then you have Luke Hemsworth, who's just such a good dude. Brings a little bit of humanity to him, but then also you get these hints of what are to come. So we wanted to make sure that is in there, because he's gonna. If people have read True Believer, they know what he becomes and what happens to him in that book. So there's the hints of it in True Believer, in Dark Wolf. And if we get another season, if we're lucky enough to get another season, everybody wants to do it. Just need to work it out with to see if Amazon wants it, and go from there. Hopefully we'll find out over the next few months, but we can start filming that, and it'll be great to have continue his evolution to the dark side as well. So that would be pretty cool to explore.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I was thinking his character wasn't super huge in True Believer. It was a pivotal role, but there wasn't much exploration. And it kind of reminded me of Ben and how his character was explored much more in the TV series than it was in the book. And I was wondering, what made you decide that you were going to include that character when you first wrote it in the book, and that he would have that betrayal at the end?
For Ben?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, I mean, I knew from the very beginning because I outlined it. I did what I've done thus far for every book. Title, theme for that book was Revenge Without Constraint, one-page executive summary, and then turn that into an outline before I start the narrative. And it was part of that outline as I'm thinking about how to move this thing forward. And I knew there had to be some sort of a surprise or a twist or something near the end. And what was that going to be? And wow, there has to be a betrayal. And we're talking about brotherhood and this essentially this love amongst warriors in a brotherhood. And that's what you have to have for betrayal, is you have to have this love in there as well. So it's it's part of the outline from the outset. But sometimes it works the other way, and I have something that I know is going to happen. And let's say Devil's Hand, and I have these two guys, if you remember in Devil's Hand, that are surveilling James Reese, and they're kind of semi goofy, a tiny bit inept. One of them's more inept than the other, but they have some military background ish, and then some contracting background. And I put them in conversation with each other in this essentially surveillance van. And in the outline, they're dead. James Reese kills them. I got to that part of the novel. I'm like, I can't kill these guys. Like, I've gotten to know them in this surveillance van over the last few months. I like James Reese is killing enough people. He can just capture these guys. So sometimes it does work. Some of these things do change from the outline.
That's really neat to hear. The last episodes have so many twists. Same with, we were just talking about the twists at the end of the first book. How do you know how many twists is like too far?
Yeah, so that's something you think about both in the TV series and on the page of the novels. And you can't just get to an end of something and say, oh, this book needs a twist, I need a surprise. Professor Plum did it with the candlestick, without giving any clues along the way where someone can go back and say, I missed that, or I thought maybe, but then I was like, no way. Like, you have to, you can't just like throw it in just because there has to be a lead up. There has to be some hidden clues along the way. And I think every book and show, if you are trying to keep it grounded in the authenticity of, let's say, modern warfare, espionage, that readers and viewers will go along with you for one leap. I think you get one leap with them, but as soon as you do more than that, then you lose them. So you have to be very careful if you're going to ask the readers to take a leap with you. And then when it comes to twists, it just has to make sense. It can't be like, oh, geez, I need a twist. No, it has to be there from the beginning. You have to know how you're going to do that, I think, and then work it in very naturally. And then it has to, the reader's reaction and the viewer's reaction has to be like, oh, I can't believe I missed that. I should have seen that. So rather than, oh, that was weird, didn't see that coming. Okay, I guess. So those are different ways to set things up. So it's all about the setup.
I wish I could watch Dark Wolf for the first time again and see the twist. Man, the finale when the silhouette of the tomahawk comes up. Man, my reaction was crazy. Is there a book or a movie that you wish you could watch for the first time again or read?
Oh, there is. I've thought about this recently. And gosh, what was it? I think it happens a lot, which is why I'm kind of conflating these things. And gosh, you know, I read most of what I wanted to read during the time frame when I should have read it, meaning I read 80s books while they were contemporary thrillers in the 80s. I read 90s books while they were contemporary thrillers in the 90s. I read books from the early 2000s while they were contemporary back then. So I'm really glad that I got to do that. And some of them are so good that I wish, yeah, we should go back and read it for the first time. But I know I already did that. So I think, some of those ones that maybe I recommend more than others, like reading Ayn Rand's Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged, reading those again for the first time, reading The Winds of War and War and Remembrance again for the first time, The Caine Mutiny for the first time, Once an Eagle for the first time. I think those ones are such special reading experiences that, yeah, I would like that. But at the same time, I'm glad that I read them when I did. And I'm not reading them for the first time today when there are so many competing responsibilities, I guess, out there, and there's all these distractions in our pockets as well on these phones and things like that. But that's why I think reading is so important. Put the phone away, go analog, and dive into the pages of a novel, because your life will be so much better. Not just your life, but I think the trajectory of the country would be going in a much more positive direction if we put the phones down and picked up a book.
You just talked about Once an Eagle. I think I have 3 copies on the shelf back there. I was trying to recreate the, I guess, James Reese's shelf in the show. So
Nice,
it's not finished yet, but that's
nice.
this rack and then up there.
Oh
And
man,
of course,
that's
the
awesome.
first edition hardcover Once an Eagle.
Nice. That's amazing. I love that. Thank you. So you were surprised when you saw it in Dark Wolf?
Yes, sir. Very. It was
That's cool.
awesome to see. And as soon as I saw that, it was just like one of those things I knew it was going to be way better than I expected. And then right after that, the Waltham Compass.
Compass, which I have right
And
over there. Yeah.
yeah, the Easter eggs are awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. There's a few of those in there. The Third Man poster, for those who haven't seen that old movie, that's in the where Ben takes refuge in episode 5. So that's cool to work little things like that in there. So it's and then things like Simple Man, which Jared would listen to before going out on missions, and so yeah, there's a lot of those things in there that are personal. So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Simple Man has been my favorite song. And then seen it in the intro, played it like a million times. Is there a song that you would say was like almost your theme song for your life?
Ooh, that's a great question. I don't know about for my life. Well, actually, I do, but I'll start with the book. So the first book, I may have told you this before, but I had a stanza from "There's a Man Going Around Taking Names," Johnny Cash. I had one to start the prologue, one to start part one, part two, part three, epilogue. And so I had that in the draft that I sent to Simon and Schuster. But back when I was a complete unknown, I guess they'd have to pay to use those quotes because it's from a song, and so those went away. I could use "There's a Man Going Around Taking Names" because even Johnny Cash took that from an unknown, I guess, artist in the 1800s, and so the whatever the timeline had expired and it was an unknown, and so we could yeah, Simon and Schuster did let me use that at the beginning of the Terminal List, but that song was one that was kind of the theme for the Terminal List. So that's one that's been influential to the entire series. And then for me personally, I like the like Louis Armstrong. It's a Wonderful World. I love that. I love some uh, Walk Through This World with me. I love kind of those kind of things that are thoughtful, have a lot of depth. So I would say probably those, which I've never been asked before. People probably think it's some sort of like 80s rock, like AC/DC or something. But yeah, I think those would be maybe some Louis Armstrong. Yeah, It's a Wonderful World.
I think I've heard your favorite movies all time. Most of them are action. Do you have a favorite movie that isn't action?
I do, and I'm holding it. I'm keeping it for a rainy day to maybe see if anybody can guess it. I have talked about it before, but I have never said it's my favorite movie. So yes. I do have one, but I'm going to hold that for the future when I can, I don't know, maybe do a giveaway or something and see if anybody guesses it. But yeah, I'm definitely a child of the 80s and love my Rambos and Lethal Weapons and Predators and Commandos and Delta Force and all those things. So those were very, very formative for me during those years.
That's awesome. Do you have time for a few more?
Yeah, yeah, let's do it.
Your cameos this season were really cool. If you don't pay attention, maybe this show isn't for you, but you are going to miss them. How do y'all decide where you are going to show up?
Well, it's scheduling is one, and the other one is picking something that can't get cut. So it has to be something that moves the plot forward. Can't just be like, oh, you're behind the counter in a 7-Eleven, and then the character goes in there and gets something to eat or whatever and leaves because that might get cut. So yeah, and this one made sense to be in this tunnel sequence, but the whole sequence is a oneer. So it means it's one camera and it moves and everything's timed, and I was supposed to get out of this vehicle and shoot, but boom, and then get shot and then go down. But the oneer was like a second off as everything was doing all its things. So all it has is me like getting shot, I think. So I don't really get off, and you don't see me take any shots, unfortunately. But so that was fun. Falling, being a fall guy, I got some stuntman pay for that, and then as you know, people might see me at the in the final episode as well. So where I actually have a line. But yeah, they're pretty short this time around. And we already filmed the one for True Believer, which is a pretty cool one. So that one you should recognize me in.
Looking forward to it. It's one of my favorite moments from the entire season in the finale when Reese is talking to Ben and he's talking about the Brotherhood, and Ben is saying that like basically he lost it, and Reese looks over and he says, "No, we're here." Where did that come from?
Yeah. It came from personal experience in the military, but also when it comes to the story, it's kind of the inverse of what happens in season one. So you have some of the same guys that Ben is spoiler. So Ben is essentially responsible for setting up in this ambush, even though his reasons, which are much better than in the book, where he talks about letting these guys die with their boots on. He knew they had brain tumors, and instead of dying in some hospital bed, let them die downrange with their boots on. So this is kind of the inverse of what happens. These guys come to save Ben, and in a sense, his character in that first season thinks he's essentially saving them, maybe through his actions, even though he ends up killing them. But he saves them from this excruciating death from tumors. So yeah, it came from that. Like, hey, let's flip this around on Ben. It'd be that much more powerful to have him rescued by the people that he's responsible for killing in the first one.
That's interesting. Is it hard to balance like adding things in the past that would kind of offset what happens 7 years in the future, or
Yeah, you just gotta be cognizant of it. It's more interesting and fun because you get to see these guys before the events of the terminal list. You get to see Ben before that time frame. You get to see Reese before that time frame, more joking and lighter than he is in the terminal list after his family is killed. So you get to meet these characters before those events, and so that was really cool. Commander Cox before things happen. So you get to do a little of that, and then you get to introduce some characters that are going to be in True Believer that you don't need to take up time introducing now in True Believer because you have their backstory now from Dark Wolf, because it's all part of the same universe. So it's more a fun challenge and an interesting challenge to be able to do things like that.
my last question is another moment in the finale when Ben is having the lie detector test, and which is kind of a familiar scene.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he's asked why he's there. Where was the idea, or how do y'all come up with that moment?
That's a good question, and I can't remember exactly where we got that, but I think it was early on. I think it was when Dave DiGilio came out here to actually the room right there, and this is where we came up with the whole concept for Dark Wolf. Jared Shaw flew in. We had a Zoom, Max coming in by Zoom. So the four of us sat down in that room with a big whiteboard and outlined this whole thing. And I think it was in an early draft. I think that was always the end. And then as we got into the pages, I think it went away and then it came back. And so we came kind of full circle on it. But we were going to end it a little bit differently. And then it just made sense to end it this way that we had originally envisioned. So yeah, I think it came from those early conversations in the room right there, and from those early drafts of the outline and the pitch.
It was really neat to see that on screen.
Very cool. I'm so glad you liked it. I was nervous when he sent it to you. I'm like, oh man, I hope he likes it. And we thought you would, but you never know till it's out there, because you're so intimately involved with this thing, and you're editing, and then you're working on another project and all this stuff. So you never really know till it's out there in the wild. But I'm so glad you liked it, and the reviews are all great. Went to #1 again, so I think that bodes well for another season. But you never really know in that world. So fingers crossed, because it would be fun to explore that and really take Ben on maybe a 3-season type of an arc that then finishes around the time when the Terminal List starts.
That would be awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
Nice.
But thank you for joining me. This was awesome.
Always great to talk to you, and I'm excited. Now there won't be such a long time between seasons, and so I don't know, early next year, maybe they drop a little teaser or a photo or a hint of something to come for True Believer, and then it'll be a few months probably till the first video or something drops, and it'll be interesting to see if you decide not to get them ahead of time, to see what you can piece together on True Believer from the things that we put out there ahead of time, because there's nobody that does it the way you do it, and we always are just astounded by how you manage to connect these dots and figure everything out. It's really cool.
Man, I'm looking forward to it. I'm so fired up for that.
Nice. Awesome.
Where can people find information on your new book?
Yeah, they can go to officialjackcar.com, and Cry Havoc is the latest. Have some shot through edition, shot through with a clone of a Colt Car 15, which is one of the primary weapons of MACV-SOG that those guys were using in Vietnam as they went into Laos, Cambodia, North Vietnam. So shot through the title pages and signed them, and those are out there to support independent bookstores, because you can only get them from independent bookstores. But you can go to officialjackcar.com, check that out, and check out all the other stuff there as well, like the podcast and the socials, the links, and all that. So yeah, that's the main hub.